Welcome everybody to our final class in our series on electroculture with Yannick Van Doorne. Today, Yannick, we're going to be exploring something that you've known for many, many years, which is the influence of music on plant growth, which dates back to your thesis work. And then we're going to open up the floor for question and answer period. So this is our final class. Thank you so much for doing this with us, and thank you for being here today.
So thank you, Angela. So I will present the subject of the influence of music on plant growth, some extract of it, because my presentation is not completely ready, but we will see some really interesting points about it that are not very well known. And you will see that the influence of music on plant growth is really a huge subject, like electroculture. It's not simple if you want to really understand how it works, but it's simple in the practical aspect how to do. It's just putting music on your plants in a certain way, but how it really works in detail, that's a huge subject. So we will see some key points how it works, and so it helps you to understand that it's not that there is really science behind it, and really scientific measurements and effects that you can understand. So let's go. So how I begin with that, it's during my studies of engineering in agriculture. I found the chapter in the book Secrets of the Soil about the influence of music on plant growth, and this and they speak a lot about the work of Don Carson with his systems Sonic Bloom, and how it improved crop yields, disease resistance, and many other good effects on plant growth. And so I began to study it more deeply, and this brought me to the whole subject of the influence of music on plant growth, and not only the work of Don Carson, but also from other inventors and researchers. And I did a research thesis about this to assemble like a bibliography of all scientific research that was known at that time in the year 1998. Now today, 20 years later, even 25 years later, there is a lot more scientific study known. So it would be very interesting to make a new thesis about this. Because now we know a lot more also. So I will, you can, I have my thesis in French and Dutch. In French, it's you can download it for free on my internet site, but I will see how I can translate it in English one day. I think there would be a lot of people interested for this. So here, that's my big experiment I did in my thesis on tomato plants, where I listed a whole set of different techniques of the influence of sound waves on plant growth, and then I decided to experiment one technique, and this technique was to set up a sequence of frequencies, like a melody, that is in relation and resonance with the gene expression of a certain protein, and with the biosynthesis of a certain protein. And then I choose one protein important for the growth of the cells. That was extensin. It's for in biotechnology. They do research about the effect of each protein and their rules in the cells. And extensine is a protein that makes that all the cells become bigger. When they divide, they are little, and then they swell and they become bigger. And when you have more of that protein, then all the cells becomes bigger. And then I was stimulating just that protein with certain frequencies. And when you submit the plant, then with those frequencies, then the plant will produce more of that specific protein corresponding with the frequency you calculated and decided. And then the whole plant will be bigger because all his cells will be bigger when it's growing. And so you see, this was only with 6 minutes of those frequencies. It's like a code. It's like you have a melody, like a partition in music. It's like a code. It's like a key in the keyhole. It's really a code. It's not just any frequency. It's just it's really a melting pot. It's a succession in a code of different frequencies that makes it happen. It's not just one frequency too. It's like really a code. And it's like music. Music, it's not just putting all frequencies together and you play it. No, it's a succession of different notes, of different frequencies after each other in a certain rhythm. Well, here too, it's a succession that it's like you create a melody that will be in resonance with a certain protein. And here you see the tomato plants on the bottom left, a lot more little than the tomato plants above on the right. So it's the same type of plants that I grow at the same moment, and the ones on the top right, they had the loudspeaker in front of it with frequencies, and it was programmed. It was with my hi-fi installation from my student room that I bring in the university greenhouse, and you see a huge difference in growth. It was 20% more growth. There were also more tomatoes and bigger tomatoes. Everything was bigger. So it was a proof that the specific influence of the frequencies corresponded with what was expected of the effect on plant growth. I could also make the sound sequence to inhibit that protein, and then the plants would be all more little. It's also possible. So, but that technique, I call it SRP, or in English, I don't know. It's a séquence de résonance des protéines. It's the resonance protein sequence, something like this. But what is interesting is that, yes, I will explain a little more in another image here. Yes, here. You see on the right, that's biotechnology. It's you see a code. You see like it's like a train with wagons. Well, each square with a color and a letter correspond with an amino acid. And a protein is made of hundreds of amino acids. You have 20 different important amino acids that build all life on Earth. We are made of the same amino acids as a plant, or as a mushroom, or as a bacteria, or we are all made of the same building materials of amino acids. but it's the code, our genetic code will be different. It's like the plan, the architecture plan of each living organism is different, but with the same building materials, with the same amino acids. And it's the succession of those amino acids that create a protein. So an example, when you have, with the plants, you have the chlorophyll. That chlorophyll, everybody knows, it's what makes the plants green. It's a kind of protein. Well, when you look at the genetic code, you will have a code of different amino acids like this. And well, when there is a physician, inventor, discoverer that discovered that every amino acid you can calculate a frequency corresponding with that amino acid. And then you can find the musical note that corresponds with it. And that scientist discovered, his name is Joel Sternheimer, a French scientist that is old now, that I met 20 years ago a lot of times to discuss and learn about this. I'm kind of a specialist of that kind of technique with time. And there are not much people know about that technique. But now there is a little company in France that's working to promote this, but I'm not really want to promote this, but what I want to share with you is the knowledge behind it, because it will bring to consciousness how life also works on a subtle and energetic and vibrational level. An example, to come back to the chlorophyll. Well, the chlorophyll is made of a succession of hundreds or thousands of those amino acids, where you find the code in the genetic code of the cell, and the cell decide to in little manufacturers and little cell organelles that we call ribosomes decide to make those chlorophyll. And each time the amino acid will be connected to another amino acid to make the chlorophyll, it will radiate that frequency that correspond with amino acid, and then it will create like a music, like a sound sequence, and it will radiate this all around the cell, all around in the environment. In reality, when the plant builds his chlorophyll, it will send the music of chlorophyll all around. And it will even, by resonance, help other plants to create their chlorophyll by resonance. And what we do, that's what happens in nature. And what we do with that technique is that we will create the music artificially. We can calculate that kind of music, and then we will play it, and then we will like force or stimulate the plant to make more of that chlorophyll as usual. And so we can, like this, in a very specific way, stimulate the production, the building, the biosynthesis of proteins, every protein. When you know the genetic code or the protein code, the amino acid code of a protein, you can make the sound frequency, the sound sequence. And like we know the genetic code of almost all plants now, you can do it for almost all proteins. We don't know the function of all proteins in science today, but we know thousands of them. So it makes it possible to make the music to stimulate, for example, disease resistance, drought resistance of plants. You can, an example in the medical sector, if there is somebody has not enough insulin because of or certain hormones, you can stimulate it with certain sounds like this. You can do a lot of things in the medical sector too, in the health care sector, and in laboratories, and you can, but you can also use it to understand more how nature works, how those things work, and also how music works, how music can affect plant growth. And I will show you some example. To come back on this example, when you look, an example, if you have diabetes, for example, and you need more insulin, well, when you will listen to the sound sequence of insulin, you will find that music, because you need it, because it will come like in resonance with yourself, because it will heal you. It will help to heal you. It will stimulate again the production of insulin that you need for surviving, for living. Well, then you will find it really beautiful. And when you don't need it anymore, then the music, you will say, it's nothing special. It's you will not feel anything special because you don't need it anymore. But it's like your feeling is like a measurement device of what you need. And so that's how we have to be careful about that, but that's why I tell that we need to listen to our feeling if something feels right or not. And that's a kind of scientific proof of it. Because with the sound sequence of proteins, if we need a certain protein, well, then we will love the music of that protein. If we don't need it, we will not like it. Another example, if two people meet each other and the one produces too much insulin and the other one not enough, they will like each other because it's like they are coming in resonance with each other. And the opposite is also, if one produces not enough insulin and the other also not enough, then they will amplify their lacking, their problem, and then maybe they will not like each other because they will not feel each other. It's not that the other is a bad guy or whatever. It's just that they are not on the same frequency, or they are too much on the same frequency in the way that they are the same and they have the same problems, and then they will not like each other because they don't like their problems. In a certain way. So we like somebody that is different as we, that we are like complementary maybe. And so, well, in nature you have that too. An example, when you look at artists, they follow more their feeling. An example, you have Vivaldi, from Baroque music, like he did the 4 seasons, spring. He did the music for spring. He did the music for winter. He did the music for summer, and the music for autumn. Well, when you look at the music for spring, you have like you have a melody that makes like I'm not so good at music, but I think you recognize. And well, when you look at those succession of frequencies, we see that there is a part of it that is corresponding exactly with the part of the frequency of a protein that is called actin. That is very important for flowers, for the fertility of flowers. And when we look in for animals, there is also protein that science called actin, the same name but a whole different protein. And that actin with the animals is very important for the muscles. So our muscles, one of the main proteins is actin. And when we look at the protein sequence of that protein for the flowers and the protein of the muscles of animals, we have very similar sound sequence. So when you would play actin for muscles, it will also stimulate the fertility of flowers, and vice versa, because there are very similar melodies inside. And so when Vivaldi created that music, he was really in resonance with springtime, because it's in springtime you have the most flowers and the animals are very active, like the little rabbits in the prairie, or the cows, or the so they are very active in springtime. We too, we want to go out, we want to work in the garden, we want to do a lot of things, and we want to do a lot more outside than in wintertime. In wintertime, we want to stay just quiet in our sofa and reading a book. But in springtime, we just want to go out and work and work with our muscles in a certain way. Well, when animals will be in nature, in the flowers, well, the production of that actin in the flowers will stimulate also their muscles to grow in a certain way, and vice versa. It's like in resonance with each other. So it's like in nature, all the frequencies are like in harmony with each other. You have different. Also, when you look at the melodies of birds, well, they will sing differently in each season. The same bird will sing another melody in each season. It's like, and maybe it will be in resonance with the needs of that season. Maybe it will be in resonance, like in the music of spring. It's like a bird singing. It's like the music of Vivaldi in springtime. It's like the birds are singing. It's the same kind of melodies and rhythms and so on. So you see that everything is like in resonance with each other. And that is what is very interesting in that discovery of the resonance frequencies of proteins, is that it makes us understand better how nature works too, how everything resonates with each other, and how even if for example the cow doesn't eat a certain flower, just by living close to that flower in the prairie, it will make milk with more proteins in springtime, because the vibrations of the flowers will stimulate actin and protein content in the milk. And it's known that cows, when the milk is of the best quality in springtime, then you have high protein content in the milk. Well, it will be probably if the prairies are full with flowers, will be even better than if it's a monoculture with only one kind of grass. So it's again also an argument that for biodiversity, because even if one doesn't eat the other, if he lives in the same environment during evolution, he needs the frequencies and the energy of the other, even if he don't eat them, because we all live in a certain, we grew up in a certain environment. Like on planet Earth, we grew up with the Schumann waves and with the magnetic field of the Earth, with the electrical field of the Earth. Well, we need all those energies, and we also need the energy of the other living organism that lives around us, even if there is no direct relation of one eating each other, because nature is not just mechanics of one eating each other. In the permaculture vision, sometimes people reduce nature by, this one eats this one, and this one eats this one, and so if this one disappears, this one also disappears. Well, in nature, it doesn't really work completely like this. It's also sometimes you make disappear one, and there is another animal or plant that is completely, that you think not related, and they disappear too, because, or they will become sick because they are lacking of the frequencies or the kind of energy of the other one, for example. Yeah, voila, that's important to, it's interesting to understand. And so I did my thesis about this, and then I put a page in the thesis, alternative to genetic manipulation. And then my professor told me that if I hold that page in my thesis, I will not get my diploma. And then I just put it out to have my diploma. But it was a whole story because they didn't like I did research on this at a high school university. So I continue. So then there was a little, when I finished my studies, there was a little magazine. I don't know if it still exists, but it's if I translate the title of the magazine, it's the border signs, or yes, border signs. It's like the signs on the borders. And there I had an article about the influence of music on plant growth, and I wanted to promote all those techniques in agriculture. I did a lot of conferences and presentations, but there were only a few farmers following me or ready or to do things at that time. Now there are a lot more people interested in that. And then I did also some research about the influence of sounds on water. And so I developed then also, or I worked with systems to stimulate irrigation water, but that's also a whole subject. And I had some articles in agriculture magazines. This was one in 2004 in France. Yes, when you see those formulas, you see a formula of Louis de Broglie. It's one Nobel Prize winner in the beginning of the century, of last century. And when you combine it with the formulas of Einstein or Henri Poincaré, then you can calculate a frequency for each mass, for each weight. So everything that has a weight, you can calculate a frequency. And in reality, everything has frequency. So everything all cells, all proteins, all atoms have frequencies. And when you calculate and you reduce it to musical notes, the inventor or the researcher Joel Sternheimer discovered that all those atoms or even quantum particles that made up the atoms, they all vibrate at certain musical notes. It's not any frequency by hazard. No, they are all like in harmony with each other. That's very interesting. So it shows that in nature you have a kind of order, you have a kind of harmony. And what is interesting, other researchers have discovered that when you take pollutants, so the molecules of pollutants, of chemical products that created by man, that create pollution, well, not all chemical products create pollution, but some can be very harmful. Well, when you calculate the frequencies, it's like it creates a false musical note. It's like your instrument, it's not well in resonance or not well tuned, and so it creates like chaos. And that's interesting that to see that pollutants mostly are not in tune with natural musical notes in nature, and so that's very interesting. And when you will bring more harmony, more of the right notes, then the pollutants will transform more quickly to other molecules that are not harmful, or that are not bad, that will not create chaos, and that will be more in tune. So that's very interesting too. And so that's brought me to the idea that we need to work to bring more harmony. If there is disharmony, then you will have disease and sickness, and then you just need to bring more harmony, and it will push us the whole system to more harmony. And all the problems will disappear by themselves in a certain way. So it's important. Here we can work to more harmony with harmonious music, but you can also work to more harmony with forms, to make that everything looks beautiful. If something looks beautiful, is that you need it, it's that it's good. If something looks ugly, is that it's bad in a certain way. It's as simple as that. If you listen to ugly music, you have ugly ideas, you have ugly feelings, everything becomes ugly. And if you listen or if you go in an environment that is beautiful, you have more beautiful ideas, and everything becomes more beautiful too, and more beautiful feelings and everything. So everything is really in relation to each other. Then I did some experiments with farmers. An example here, that was a leaf of a rose in a greenhouse. And before, they were like sick and all in bad shape, all little like this. And after I put some frequencies, they become all really big. The rose plants become all double the size. And I did that in a whole greenhouse with those kind of frequencies and music. And I did some experiments like this. Even the rose grower, he didn't believe what was happening. He didn't understand what was happening. But it shows that music can have really huge effects on plant growth. Other example, this was with the sonic bloom frequencies that I will explain just a little later. So here you see on the red beat, on the left with sonic bloom, on the right without. The carrots too, on the left without, on the right with. Maybe it doesn't work here, the sound. Yeah, I continue. So about sonic bloom now, how it works. So so here you see a cell with chloroplast. The sonic bloom invention works differently. This will not work directly on protein biosynthesis, but indirectly. Sonic bloom is inspired from the sounds from birds in a certain way. It's just in scientific research. In Ottawa, there was some scientific research in the 70s, 80s. And they did experiments with bird frequencies that we hear much in bird songs, mostly high frequencies. And then when you look at the cell, you have the chloroplast. Well, in the cell of the plants, the chloroplasts are moving. There is an intracellular movement. All the organelles, all the content of in the cell moves continuously. It's not static. Well, and when you look at science, they say that it will move during the day because of the light. When the light shines on the plants, it begins to move. And in the night, it stops. It's like sleeping. Well, and when you have a frost, for example, in springtime, it's when you have frost damage on the little fruit or flowers or of apple trees or cherry trees or all the fruit trees. Well, the frost damage is mostly during the night, just before before sunrise, because when the sun rises, there is light, and then there is movement in the cells, and then they freezes less quickly because it's in movement. It's like the water in a river will freezes less quickly than the water in a pond that is static. Well, in the cells of the plants, it's the same. And so now we have all that frost damage in springtime at different places, and that is not normal. Why there was no so much frost damage 50 years ago, for example? Well, I will explain you, or give one part of the explanation. It's that you have also another effect that is as important as light, is the bird songs. But the problem now, you don't have birds anymore, almost not anymore. We live in the desert with almost no bird songs anymore, or a lot less than 50 years ago or than 100 years ago. Well, the birds begin to sing even before sunrise. Maybe at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still dark, and they already begin to sing very loudly every spring. And now, if you begin to listen, if you are living outside, you hear in the morning all the birds singing. Well, when you put bird songs on plants, then in the cell the chloroplast begins to move. They move. So it will protect them against frost also. And it will also stimulate the growth. And so the intracellular movement is really stimulated by sounds, by those, or music and the bird songs in nature. It's like it's living together and it needs each other. And Sonic Bloom Dan Carson discovered also that when you look at the stomata, so the stomata are like our mouth with the opening. You see on the image on the right, on the top, you see a drawing of this. You have like openings on the surface of the leaves, and the plant can close those openings or open it, and it's through those openings that the plant will exchange carbon dioxide and water vapor, and it's like this that it absorbs carbon dioxide that will be used as a building material for the plant. For the carbon, it builds up the carbon. Well, it absorbs not through the surface of the leaf, it absorbs through the openings, the mouths in the leaves and inside the leaves. Because on the surface, they have like a cuticula, a protection, like grease or like a resin that isolate from outside. So they cannot absorb through the cell wall on the surface of the leaves. It's always through the stomata. And well, when you will play the bird songs, it will stimulate the stomata to open and to exchange the gases. So it will stimulate the plant to grow also by stimulating the breathing of the plant. So that's very interesting. And even more magic or more marvelous nature phenomenon is that when you have the if you look with an electron microscope or with a microscope the surface of the leaves, you see that you have a certain number of stomata on each square centimeter of the leaf. Well, when the plants grow in silence, then it's like we grow in silence, then we don't need our ears, and then our organ to listen to sound will disappear because we don't use it. Well, it's like you don't use your arm, you close up at your muscles, everything will disappear, and you will not be able anymore to use it after a few years. Well, there are a lot of people that don't use their brains, and after a few years they cannot use it anymore because there's no brain anymore. Just a joke. Well, with plants you have that. When the plants grow in music from the birds, then they will, by growing, they will produce a lot more stomata each square centimeter. So it's like they will have a lot more ears or a lot more exchange capacity also to absorb carbon dioxide. So if they want to help plants to absorb carbon dioxide, we would need to tell that to the politicians. Then they have to stimulate music and birds in the fields. And so the plants will grow and will produce a lot more stomata. So it's also an argument to stimulate biodiversity, stimulate the presence of birds in our gardens and in the fields too, because when the plants will grow with those bird songs and or music, well, they will develop a lot more stomata and a lot more growth capacity in a certain way. And it's not just a few percent, it's really the double or even more. It's like when you look at the electron microscope, you see really, it's really a lot, a big difference. And also the stomata are like more developed. They are more fine, yeah, they are more developed, more they work a lot better. So that's really interesting too, and shown by science by electron microscope. So they have, like you see, there are a lot of different effects. There's also another effect. The plants absorb nutrients through their roots. Everybody knows that. That's what we learn at school. Well, the plants absorbs also nutrients through their stomata. That not much people know that, but you can feed plants only through the stomata too, by spraying solutions of with water and amino acids or proteins or fertilizers. You can spray on the plants, and the plants can absorb through the stomata if they are open, if the plants is willing to absorb it. Well, an example also with herbicides. When they want to kill plants, you have certain herbicides that needs to be absorbed by the plant. If the plant closes its stomata, the toxic herbicide will just flow over it, and the plant will not absorb it, and so it will survive. Well, with certain sound frequencies of sonic bloom, for example, or the bird songs, you will stimulate the absorption by more than in laboratory. They did test and they measured more than 700% more absorption. Yes, I repeat, 700%. So it's like 7 times more absorption. And so when you will put like certain herbicides, in reality you can easily divide by 2 the doses or the quantity of herbicides or certain herbicides that needs to be absorbed. So with the same, so that technique makes it possible for conventional farming to cut down all their herbicides by 50%. It's interesting. It's a lot less pollution too. But something else, when you use fertilizers, is the same. When you use spray fertilizers, you can also cut the doses a lot, or increase the efficiency of the same spray. Yes, of the same spray. So, and in nature, in the morning, when the birds are singing, it's in the morning, then sometimes you have like a kind of dew or humidity on the surface of the leaves. And it's like on our skin, you have more bacteria on our skin than all the number of cells that makes your whole body. You have more bacteria cells of other organisms on your skin than all your cells. And those bacteria are also very important for health. Well, on plants also, you have on the leaves of the plants a lot of kind of bacteria, mycorrhiza, all kind of microorganisms that lives on the plant and that will produce certain proteins, certain sugars, all kind of molecules that the plants will also use as a nutrient, to feed itself. And so when the plant in the morning with the bird songs will absorb all those nutrients, well, it will also help the plants growing. Yeah? And in nature, you see that plants are really growing, or a lot of plants, in symbiosis with the sound waves of the birds like this. Now the problem is that over 100 or over 1 century, you have like maybe 95% less birds as normal. We are living in a kind of desert of bird songs and birds. So when you listen today to the birds in the country yard, you have to know that it's like a desert. It's almost nothing in comparison in what it needed to be. And so when you will play some more music, you will see that all your plants will grow a lot better because they need that. Because in normal condition, they would have grown with that music. But today it's like silent, so they just grow like they can, but they will grow a lot less. And that's also why I tell to the people that today whole nature is depressed. Whole nature, what you see as normal is completely not normal. Whole nature is more weak. All plants are weaker or depressed or because of a lot of because there's no nature's music anymore, or almost or less, and also all the stress from pollution and all the stress from electromagnetic pollution too, and everything. So the plants grow really below their possibilities. They really grow below their optimum. And so when you will put some music, I can advise just classic Baroque music like Vivaldi, Corelli, Mozart, Beethoven, all the classic ones. Well, in most cases, you will see that the plants will grow directly a lot better. So we will see some examples of this. So that's an example with sonic bloom. You have a corn that becomes huge like this, at more than 3 meters tall and more than 50% more yield. That was just with sonic bloom, no electroculture. So if you put sonic bloom plus electroculture plus good microorganism, maybe you have 5 meters. I don't know, but everything is possible. But sonic bloom really has huge effects. An example of sonic bloom that you find in their scientific data on walnut trees. So they grow like 2 times faster, a lot bigger, even more. When you see that table, you see that it's really growing a lot faster with sonic bloom. Sonic bloom, he uses 2 aspects. He uses the music of the birds or certain sound frequencies, and also he makes a nutrient solution based on algae, on Ascophyllum nodosum algae, that is very rich in certain plant hormones. And then he makes also some other plant extracts. But I did test with only Ascophyllum nodosum algae spray solution, and sonic bloom, and I had already huge results. So it really works very well. So algae, Ascophyllum nodosum is an algae that is very widespread in the Atlantic Ocean, that is a lot used in agriculture, and it works very, very well. That is cheap. It works very well. But you can also use other spray products that are rich in nutrients, that are organic. The best is to really use a nutrient mix that is very holistic, that is very widespread usage, because if it's not holistic, then you will create imbalances, and that's not good. And Ascophyllum nodosum is very rich in all kind of nutrients. It has a really a big holistic approach, a very holistic approach. Yeah. So how can I continue? So sonic bloom make certain speakers like this, but you can also use just your normal loudspeakers and put the wide frequencies on it, and it will work too. I made also speakers like this, but for the moment I don't sell it much because there are not much people buying it. Every time I made some, there were only a few people buying, but not much. It's like people are not aware of the importance and of the results they can get with it. And there are only a few farmers doing it, but it's a pity, yeah, because they can really increase a lot their results. Here, that's an example of a scientific research in Ottawa from Pearl Weinberger, so in Ontario. So it's nice to see that I'm explaining this to a group from Ontario. And I had one time in the time I did research on it, I phoned, I think, the family of Weinberger, and I had a woman on the phone. It was his wife, and she was so happy that somebody was interested in his research, because there's so less people that do that pay attention to his research and this research. And for me, it's really very, very important research. I don't know if he still lives, because this was a patent from 1971, and research from those years, end of the 60s and beginning of the 70s. So if he still lives, he maybe is very old, but he did really good work, because the work also of Sonic Bloom is based on his research and others' research too in that time. But there were not many researchers doing experiments about this in that time. You have also another effect, is your feeling, and this is proven in that research of Cleve Baxter, that your feeling will be also very important for plant growth, but or plant health or plant stresses. And so with music, you have also that effect. I don't speak about this in my thesis, because otherwise they would have taken me as a mad guy in the engineer school. But it's also very important. If you like a certain music, if you love a certain music, then you will radiate good energies. If you don't like a certain music, then you will radiate stress, and it will also influence, then it will influence badly the environment. Your own radiation, your own stress or good feelings are very important for all the living organisms around you. If my wife is stressed, for example, the whole family is stressed. And if my wife is in good mood, the whole family is in good mood. So it's very important. Yeah. So, well, with our plants too. Here an example with music. I did some experiments on in Alsace with a wine grower, and he measured 8% more sugar content, and he had 30 to 50% more growth when I compared to other fields that were around of the same similar grapevines. So he had really huge results, and we just have put some loudspeakers in his field and just played that music, as a certain kind of musics. Here, that's an experiment done in Italy, in Florence, and there is a wine grower that uses classic Baroque music since more than 10 years already. And he he did. It's followed by the University of Florence. And here on the left, you see the wine plants that were put in pot for an experiment. And you see that they grew already a lot bigger than the ones on the right, that they even are still little and even not to the top of the stick that is close to it. Well, the only difference between those two plots is the music. They were watered the same earth, the same plants, but the only difference is that the one on the left, the group on the left, had a music almost all day. He put classic music almost the whole day. And you see huge difference. It's even more bigger influence than difference in nutrients or water or whatever. It's really a huge difference. So here you see the importance that music can have. And when I asked to the student that followed that experiment if he had some diseases in his vineyards and how much he needed to treat against diseases with products, then he told me no, he didn't have any disease when he was there. He never treated with products. And in the classic wine growing, they do a lot of treatments with chemical products or organic products against disease, against mildew, for example, or oidium, or all kind of different diseases that could exist. So you see that when the plants grow better, they feel good, well, then they have no disease. It's the same as animals. When we are stressed, we get more easily disease than when everything goes all right. So there is also a figure of it was measured very precisely, and you see the difference in growth. It's really big. So imagine this vine grower, it's already since more than 10 years that he uses music. So every year his vines grow a lot better than the other from the neighbors. So it's a lot better. His wine is really excellent. It's really a fantastic wine too. So yeah, that's another, about 432 hertz. It's even better, but already when the music is tuned to 440 hertz, you have already good effects. But when you use the same music tuned to 432 hertz, the effects, it's way better. I will show you some. So it's about the tuning of the musical notes in the music. Well, when the music is tuned to 432 hertz, then I discovered then that the other musical notes become in resonance with very important molecules, or like here chlorophyll. Well, when I calculate certain frequencies, it corresponds with 256 hertz. That is one of the do or the C in the tuning scale of 432 hertz. And water is also have a resonant frequency at 432 hertz. There are some scientists that are not agree with me. Yes, maybe a lot of scientists do not agree with me. I'm used to that. It's not a problem. But in my research, I discovered this, and I agree with myself, so it's okay. but it's really amazing. Like, for example, oxygen and the proton, when we calculate the frequency, one frequency, we can find also a harmonic at 384 hertz, and that corresponds then with the G, or the sol in French, or the G. So it's like when you tune the music to 432 hertz, it's like all the other musical notes will be in tune with very important molecules in nature. And when the music is tuned to 440 hertz, you don't have those correspondences with very important molecules, or a lot less. Yeah, I continue. Ah, yes, and when we look at the relation with the Schumann frequencies, well, there I discovered something interesting too. They tell that Mozart played also music at 422 hertz. And then I did some research. Why does he play at 422 hertz? And then I calculated the frequencies and the musical notes. And then I saw that there are like 3 main frequencies in exact harmonic with the Schumann waves. So that's very interesting because it's really in resonance with planet Earth. And then he made that music for special music for planet Earth. So it's not by hazard. Yeah. When we look at the size of the pyramids, we have also a very interesting aspect or discovery is that they say that the big pyramid and the other pyramids, they were like in a lake. And at Earth level, there are 440 royal cubit side length. And at the water level, that they supposed to be, it was 432 royal cubits. So there you see the importance of the length, of the sacred length of the royal cubit of 52 centimeters and a half, or 52.36 some speak about, and others speaks about 52.5. It depends if you make it more approximative probably. We have to do some research about this, but I know somebody that went in the big pyramid in the king's chamber, and he did some research about sound frequency resonance in the king's chamber, and he had a really pain in his back pain. And when he did his research in the pyramid with his frequency generator, he discovered there was a big resonance of the sarcophagus and the king's chamber with 432 hertz. And when he came out after 1 hour of experimentation in the pyramid, he had no back pain anymore. He was completely healed. So it's like really in relation again with that frequency and the architecture or the measurements of the room of the king's chamber and also of the whole pyramid is also in resonance with in relation with the Schumann waves, but also with 432 hertz. Very interesting. So it's like to bring a message also from old times to our modern times. If they took all the work to build that pyramid that will survive thousands of years, maybe it's because they wanted that it survive thousands of years, and they wanted to transmit a message to future generations. Otherwise, you don't do that. Otherwise, you just build. It's like you build a house. If you just build it to survive, if you are like maybe 70 years old and you want just a house for 20 years, you build it differently than if you want a house that will survive 100 years for your children and your grandchildren and your future generations. You think it differently, and so I think it's really to transmit a message, messages. Like we have all the temples that still are white. It's not like normal houses of today that maybe in 50 years they are not there anymore because they are destroyed, because we have to build it wall again because they were not very strong. So I will continue. Here with 432 hertz, just with 15 minutes a day, you see germination of beans. You see that after 35 days, the control group is even not 50 centimeters big, and the group treated with 432 hertz is already more than 25 centimeters big. So you see that just with one frequency, only 15 minutes a day, you can have such a huge influence. It's really very, 432 hertz, it's very, very powerful. Also for healing, it's very powerful. But also to bring harmony. It's like it bring you again in tune with the natural tuning and with nature's frequencies all around you. It's like instantaneously it will bring you in tune, and everything will work better. All your cells, all your the growth of the plants too. There were other experiments here. Here you see another experiment on beans. After 104 hours, it's like 4 to 5 days. They measured the stem length. Now you see the picture also of different germination of beans. Well, the best effect was in the middle, also with 432 hertz compared with 440 hertz on the right. But 440 hertz had even better effect than just the silence. Silence is even worse because less effect at the control group. So 440 hertz, it's not so bad, but 432, it's even a lot better. Yeah. So I continue. And 432 hertz, and those music will also increase your intuition, creativity, harmony, and the growth, health, the well-being of your plants and you. I did some research with the wind chimes like this that are tuned to 432 hertz. And then I put, I have a video about this, but I could not put it in my presentation. Didn't work, but you see on that image the wind chime, and then you see like colors around. It's like with the camera and an application on the computer invented by Harry Oldfield. You can see like colors in the light that shows the energy in a certain way, the subtle energy. And when I played the sound, when I made the sound with the wind chime, then you saw that the energy, the light energy around was also moving all around, really amplifying. That's very interesting because the application of Harry Oldfield just work with an application on the computer and a camera. So it measures light frequencies, and it shows that sound influences light frequencies. You don't see it with your own eyes, but you see it with very sensitive cameras and applications that analyzes the light of the camera. So it's very, very interesting because it proves that sound is not only a mechanical vibration, it's also an electromagnetic vibration. You see, it shows that sound is more than just a mechanical vibration like they try to learn to us in official science in the universities and schools. No, it's also a kind of electromagnetic vibration. And that I found in certain science articles during my research from Asia. In Asia, they did already those kind of discoveries a long time ago, that sounds have also electromagnetic influence. So when you will play harmonious music, you will bring the sound of the environment in harmony, but also the electromagnetic environment in harmony. So that's also interesting. That's so something else. The Schumann frequencies are in a way also kind of sound frequencies, but that we don't hear because it's so low frequency that it's behind the range we can hear. But you could put that in kind of infrasounds, and some animals can hear those infrasounds. Maybe elephants maybe can hear those vibrations. There is a legend in certain cultures that how do we name that animal on the left? It's a turtle. Yes, the turtle. Well, there is a legend that the turtle is one of the animals that created that support the whole Earth network, or the whole planet Earth. It's an interesting legend too. Well, when you look at the image of the turtle, and when you put certain frequencies on sand on the plate, then you have like a turtle shape or a form, like on his skin, or his like you see on the image. It's like frequencies creates form also. Well, sound frequencies create form. And on Earth, you have like a whole network of energies, energetic lines and everything. Maybe it's like a kind of frequency of the Earth that creates like a shape, like you have also the shape of the of the shape of the honeycomb. Well, on Earth you have also kind of shape, invisible shape like this of energies, and you have that you can measure in dowsing, or in dowsing, in geomancy. You can feel that there are different energies in different places, and there are certain plants that are very sensitive to that, and other plants less. But for certain plants, it's important where they are planted, because of those energies that are different from place to place. Another example about energy, we speak also already about Igina spiral, inspired from the snail shells. Well, when you look at water on a plate and you put certain sound frequencies, so in relation to sound, well, here there was an experiment with the frequency on a plate with water, and then you see like spirals appearing, but those spirals are not static, they are moving, they are rotating. So when you see a shape, it's like a photograph of a flowing energy. Like when you see, if you transmit that to what we see in plant life, or what we see in our environment, well, all shape you see is in reality like a photograph of moving energy. Maybe if we see a plant, it's like a shape of energy. It's like a photograph of the energy on that moment. but like it's material, it will take time to become to be in that shape, and it will transform in another shape or grow, what we call grow slowly. But the energies are a lot more quicker. The subtle energies are always flowing around. And so if you change the energies around, the shape of the expression of living organism will change too. That's what I try to explain also with electroculture, with that when you change the energy, the expression of shape of the expression of the plants, the growing of the plants will change. Everything will change. Everything that moves will evolve differently in a certain way. The rock will still stay a rock, because he changed very slowly. It's more in thousands of years he changed. But a plant changes a lot more quickly. So there you will see in your lifetime or in the day or in the weeks an evolvement. Yeah, we continue. Also in sound research, there was discovered that every plant has like an electromagnetic frequency spectrum that you can measure with special devices and applications on the computer. And well, you see, for example, on the image below, that was a Canadian that discovered that. His name is Pierre Rubessa. Well, he discovered that he could measure like a kind of electromagnetic frequency spectrum of every living organism, and water too, and more. And here an example of healthy dates. And on the left below, on the bottom, you see a frequency spectrum. And then on the right, you see the frequency spectrum of diseased dates with parasites. So you see that the energy is completely different. It's like you eat something else. It's like the energy is completely different. Maybe it looks the same, like chemically, it will be quite the same as just a parasite, some proteins more, but but in energetically, it's completely different. So that's also very interesting to be aware of. It's like they will create a whole different kind of music or subtle energy radiation around too. An example, tomato plants. Here you see below on the bottom, on the left, conventional tomato plants. In the middle, organic tomato plants, and on the right, diseased tomato plants. You see that the shape of the frequency spectrum is completely different. So it will have also a whole different effect for our well-being and energy and personal energy if we eat that. It will be completely different. Yes, what is also interesting with that discovery of the name is the inventor is Pierre Rubessa, but the name of his yes, he called it the bioscope. Like you have a microscope, he called it the bio, like to scope the measuring the frequencies of a living organism. He called it the bioscope, it's still fundamental research. It's maybe in future we could buy devices that will be practical for more mainstream use, but now it's more in laboratories. They do research with that. But what I wanted to tell. yeah, there is also some very interesting phenomenon. Is that when you take a glass of water, I have here a glass of water, and when you will measure your energy, you will have a kind of frequency spectrum. And when you will measure the water, an example, you put the water in a room and you go in the room, well, then you will measure that the water will take your frequency spectrum. It will become in resonance with your frequency spectrum at low intensity. And when you will look with your eyes to the water, it will increase of intensity, the frequency spectrum in the water. That shows that your eyes are not only a measurement tool that absorbs light energy, it's also laser, it's like send out also kind of energy. That's why I told also in the course that everything that every antenna that emits also that receives also emits. And well, even our eyes, maybe our ears too, our everything. So that's also very interesting, because if we will go in our gardens and we will look at certain plants, we give them attention. We give them attention, like an electrical tension, or like we give them energy in a certain way just by looking at them. It can be good energy if you love them, or it can be bad energy. If you hate them and you look at them, they will not like it. Probably. So it's like a laser. It's like when somebody is looking at us in our back, we feel that, oh, there's something. It's because there was something looking. There was somebody looking. Because if you are sensitive, you can feel that. And even in reality, our thoughts too, but that's even more further. It's like, but it's also true. Yes, everything is energy, and what we eat is energy. So that's why I show this to become conscious of that. That what is important is the energy we eat. It's not just about nutrients, because if it's only nutrients, we could make a chemical. We could make a chemical copy of all nutrients and just have some chemicals in our shelf, and just eat, make every day a mixture of different chemicals, and it will be finished. But it doesn't work like this. We eat living energy, and it's that light or living energy that we need to survive, to live. It's not the food as a material, because otherwise we could eat food from the microwave and radiated with radioactive radiation, that it holds like 50 years, it survives. Well, I think if you eat food of 50 years old, even if it looks nice, you will have no life energy anymore inside, and I don't think you will live very long with food of 50 years old. So that's really to become conscious that we are really eating light energy, and that we need to work to increase that life force in our food. So I'm at the end. So in place of doing just a little piece, in reality, I did again a big presentation. So, but that's okay. But I could tell even more about this. It's really just a piece of it, because there's so much information. It's a whole subject, but you see that it's a lot to discover. So the practical aspects, you can just put Baroque classic music, and you will a few hours a day in your greenhouse, and even 1 hour, and it can already have huge effects for the well-being and the growth of your plants. And it doesn't need to be very loud, around 50 decibel, like the intensity, like we talk. It can have already huge effects. With the sonic bloom technique, you need high intensity to have effect, because the sonic bloom technique, it's a more mechanical effect. But with classic Baroque music, even if it's not so loud, you can already have a huge effect. Yeah. So I hope it was very interesting, and it's the first presentation I did about this subject in English. There were already some in French, but never in English. So I think I hope it will help a lot of people to discover the subject and to maybe make also more research about this and to practice this in their gardens and fields. And I would be very, very happy if some of you that would listen to that presentation and do experiments in their garden, if they will share their observations and results. I would be very happy. Yeah, so thank you very much.